All right, y'all. I've been building apps again. So, what I wanted to do was to build some sort of app that would kind of visualize my thinking on infinity, the infinite, and how we, as sort of localizations of consciousness, experience the infinite in a sort of linear way. So, the way that we experience cause and effect, time, aging, the way that we experience a world around us. I don't know what that is. Um, and a world that seems to grow and evolve and change and things like that. So what I've done is kind of mapped that onto this grid that we see here. And in fact, I'm just going to read what I've written about this. Okay. So consciousness is an infinite field of possibility. Imagine this field expressed as a grid. So every conceivable universe, realm, dimension, object, and so on exists as data points on this grid. So I'll just read this, it's probably easiest. So the grid stretches out forever in every direction, so it's infinite. On it, every possible moment already exists. So every version of every event all at once, all expressed as just nodes on a grid. That's like the points on a grid. So nothing happens first, nothing causes anything, there's no set order, there's just the whole of possibility laid out and complete. So you can call it reality, call it God, source, the universe, the divine, whichever word you reach for. It's all the same thing. So everything all at once. Now we are this field, we are this entire field narrowed to a single point. So we are a finite mind of consciousness. So consciousness confined and localized within a finite mind that's forgotten its own size. So it's mistaking itself for a body that's cut off and alone. So from inside that forgetting, this localization traces a single path across the grid, one point after the other. And that tracing through the grid of all possible events is what we feel as time, the sense of a past behind us, a future ahead of us, of being born, growing old, and dying. So the line isn't laid down in advance, it's sort of drawn in the walking. And I will I will explain that a little bit more, because there's a degree to which you do have a line when you start, or at least that's what I'm theorizing, and that the free will of consciousness itself can adjust that line, which relates to sort of the way people interpret manifestation and things like that. So at certain moments, the field can change its mind and turn the line somewhere new through this infinite grid. And though it can never unwalk the stretch that's already behind it, that localization of consciousness, it can redirect the line through its actions. So a life is the shape that choosing leaves behind, in terms of the shape of the line. So at death, the point widens back into the infinite field. The line remembers it was always the whole grid. Every living thing is another line being drawn, but the grid is one. So every line is the same one being, meeting itself as a stranger, lover, enemy, and everything in between. You are a line on the grid. You are every line on the grid. You are the grid, briefly convinced that it's a line. So if we look at this grid and say every single point on here is a representation of a configuration of the universe, right, in any given moment. So this is the entire universe as it is right now. This is the entire universe as it is in a split second's time. And each one of these points, if you go far enough in any direction, you will find every possible configuration of every conceivable universe, because this grid is infinite. There is no end to it. It's every single possible thing is on here. So if we then create a lifeline on here, I've now got a birth point here and a death point here. And we localize as this sort of localization of consciousness in here. and feel that we're separate, and then we start to move through our line. So if I hit play here, this is moving across the grid, experiencing one moment to the next. Obviously this is a very simplified scale of the whole thing, but this is a being moving through their life, and they experience this movement through the grid as the passing of time. And the shape of this line could be conceived or could be described as a soul contract. This is sort of the life that you signed up for in a way. But at certain key events, through your own actions, through the free will of the wider conscious field that makes up everything, that makes up the entire grid, we might change the line. So we hit the key event and it redraws the line to create a different future. Oops. And then we move along this. I can click this button here just to sort of follow along, and it starts to move across this line, the new lifeline that it's drawn as a result of the actions that it's taken through the free will that exists within the wider field of consciousness. And then we might have another key event here. So if we draw another line, and instead of going on that previously walked path, we now take this one. And you'll see that there are other lines on the grid, other localizations of the same broader field of consciousness moving through the grid, experiencing it from a unique point of view. But that's literally all it is. All an individual is a point of view within the infinite. And because all of these points of view originate from the same everything, they're a localization of the whole thing, an instance of the whole thing that is in a state of forgetfulness that it's the whole thing. Every single one of these individuals is essentially the same thing. And when you bump into other individuals, you are essentially meeting yourself. You are meeting another instance, another localization of consciousness that's in the same state of forgetfulness as you, so that you both feel like you're individuals and you both feel separate. But ultimately, when you reach the end of the line, no pun intended, your body dies. The localization of consciousness is no longer confined to the finite mind and rejoins the grid and remembers that it is everything, that we are all the infinite, we are all God, we're all the divine. Yeah, and I just thought this might be quite a nice way of visualizing that. So we create a new lifeline. Short one this time, somebody that might die young. So maybe they start on their journey through their life, navigating this infinite field of consciousness on a linear pathway, creating the illusion of time passing. But actually it's just, you got the everything of the universe here, and then the everything of that same universe a split second later right here, and so on and so forth. And every single possible configuration of the universe that exists is on this grid somewhere. And perhaps when you hit key event and redraw, so this person's obviously made a decision that's extended their life quite considerably, it might be that that new key event jumps you to a completely different part of the grid, where the choice that you made a very fundamental shift in the reality that you're living every day. Yeah, just thought that would be a fun way of visualizing it. I've spoken about this before, but it's kind of hard to explain what I'm talking about without visualizing it. So that's why I tend to build these little apps to try and give you some sort of visual metaphor to kind of cling on to. Anyway, hope that was useful. Again, I'll stick a link to this one in the chat, and you guys can have a play if you feel like it. Much love.